Scientific American now says that Western science did not recognize the existence of two sexes until the late 18th century. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, Klavan, you marvelous merchant of mirth, your combination of hilarious satire and shattering good looks just makes me want to forget my marriage vows and do you as if we were some sort of wild animals. And okay, maybe only some of you are thinking that, but the point is, no, I'm not making this up. This claptrap was actually asserted in a series of tweets from Scientific American, which was once a respected magazine that explained the latest theories and discoveries for the improvement of its readers, and is now a pile of shiny pieces of paper covered with markings that resemble words but are actually meaningless symbols representing the images created by random electrical activity in brains that have been rendered fatally defective by a catastrophic collision with an American university. These meaningless symbols, when translated into something like English, say the following, quote, and I swear to heaven, this is a real quote, word for word, from Scientific American. Quote, before the late 18th century, Western science recognized only one sex, the male, and considered the female body an inferior version of it. The shift historians call the two-sex model served mainly to reinforce gender and racial divisions by tying social status to the body, unquote. Now, of course, this is not entirely fantastical, politically inspired falderall. Historically, there were some men who considered the female body inferior to the male. But the popularity of this idea declined after God wiped most of them off the face of the earth by raining fire and brimstone on Sodom and Gomorrah. In an ancillary tragedy, Lot's wife was turned into a pillar of salt, which meant Lot's food tasted better, but there was no one to cook it for him. Lot ultimately became a laughingstock when he would settle into his armchair shouting, "Hey, honey, don't forget to put some salt on my sandwich," and would then just sit there watching the big game with nothing to eat. After that, people were forced to admit that the female body was far superior, if only because of the way it giggled adorably when you chased it around the room. To be fair, the great philosopher Socrates also found the male body superior, but whenever he left the agora, people used to whisper behind his back, "That's Socrates, great philosopher, but, gay." And his ideas were ultimately dismissed. To give Scientific American its due, before setting it on fire and then urinating on the ashes to make sure the flames don't spread to something valuable, the idea that the two sexes were invented in the late 18th century mainly to reinforce gender and racial divisions may be derived from the Great Gender Invention Meeting of 1785, held by the Dead White Male Society in their secret castle hidden deep within the lightning-laced fog that shrouds the craggy reaches of Mount Bigotry. It was in that fateful meeting that this gathering of powerful but shadowy figures voted that from that day forth, all people except Oscar Wilde would be divided at birth into either males or females, and the females would be cruelly forced to bear all the children and to take so long to dry their hair that every home would need a second bathroom, while the men would be free to grill steaks and use curse words while laughing loudly at jokes that aren't really all that funny when you come to think about them. Fortunately, this evil plot was finally foiled by critical gender theorists who broke the tyranny of the gender binary through a brilliant strategy, technically known as talking complete crap. And today, young men and women are at last free to choose whatever gender they wish and to live full, rich, liberated lives from their birth right up to their suicide. So thank you, Scientific American, for bringing this little-known watershed of Western science to light. Your work will stand alongside the 1619 Project as one of the great landmarks in the history of human mendacity. Oh, and by the way, watch out for the fire and brimstone. And please pass the salt. Wow, that was great, wasn't it? You want more? Like and subscribe to the Andrew Klavan Podcast.